Hunters are one of the most interesting classes in the game. Despite being relatively simple, the term hunter is very undefined and vague in all actuality. A lot of characters in the lore are considered to be hunters, yet they're everything from rangers to beastmasters to riflemen, all fundamentally quite different. Nonetheless, some of them are incredibly influential and are among the most powerful characters in the entire game, at least from the mortal side. So, taking the umbrella term into consideration, let's examine what are the strongest hunters in the lore. Brought to you by Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community that is unlike any other platform, with thousands of inspiring classes for creative and curious people on literally everything from illustration to writing to video to even life skills and productivity. I've actually used the website myself for months and it is really amazing. In particular, I did a going freelance course by Justin Gignac, which despite not freelance has helped me run my YouTube channel a lot better. I've also done a few writing courses that helped me write videos, like the one you're watching right now. I would seriously recommend this to you guys. There are so many creative classes out there that can help you with your hobbies, passions, and even your career. It is just under $10 a month if you pay annually, and for the first 1,000 people that sign up, you will get the premium membership absolutely free. And if you're a curious person and a lifelong learner, I guarantee that you will love it. Check out my link in the description below and join Skillshare. Number 10. Hemet Nesingwary. The enemy of nature, the great game hunter, also known as the greatest hunter in all of Azeroth. Hemet Nesingwary is the definition of a hunter, like in the literal sense. We've seen this guy pretty much everywhere we went, from Classic to Northrend to Pandaria and even Battle for Azeroth. Despite being arguably the most influential hunter out there, he isn't exactly a powerhouse himself. He's more of an Azeroth celebrity, a rich dwarf constantly leading safaris with a group of other hunters all across Azeroth and even other worlds. However, that doesn't mean that Hemet is just a figure, as we know that he participated in some battles, most notably the battlefields of Lor'themar, as well as against the Burning Legion, most likely sometime during the Third War, although we don't really know any of the details. In terms of his hunting adventures, Hemet Nesingwary is literally all about hunting big game, the scariest and the wildest creatures that few dare to even venture close to, let alone hunt. These endeavors of hunting rare animals drew the ire of many, earning himself the title the enemy of nature. It even went so far that Dehta, the druids for ethical and humane treatment of animals, was created just to counter him and his counters. So, despite not being really a powerhouse, Hemet Nesingwary is one of the most influential and most powerful hunters across all of Azeroth. Number 9. VEREESA, Windrunner. The youngest of the sisters, she is of the fabled Windrunner bloodline. Unlike her older sisters, VEREESA didn't acquire a ton of experience, and neither was she a general or was very highly ranked. In fact, it was only a bit prior to the Second War that she joined the Farstriders, elite rangers. Her first rise to prominence was when she accompanied Ronin in what turned out to be a simple escort quest, but ultimately it turned out to be an adventure unlike no other. She helped him acquire the Demon Soul and battle Deathwing, and following that, the two got married. VEREESA was among the few prominent survivors of the Scourge invasions, and she would also venture to Grimbatal, battling dragons. Following that, she created the Silver Covenant, which opposed the inclusion of Blood Elves into the Kirin Tor, which later on proved right to her as the bombing of Terramore happened, and she became even more militant than she was before. Since then, VEREESA participated in almost all events thus far, from helping us defeat Lei Shen, to the war against Garrosh, to Argus, and most recently, the Battle for Azeroth. When compared to her sisters, VEREESA is the only ranger that is still a ranger and a hunter, and she isn't almost an entirely different class, although I'd say she's the weakest out of the Windrunner sisters, but she is nonetheless powerful just as a Windrunner. Number 8. Halduron Brightwing. Originally just a Farstrider that was quite influential, but nothing too out of the ordinary, he fought the Amani and joined in the Orcish Wars. During the Second War against the Orcish Horde, he reached the title of Lieutenant, and just as the Third War was about to begin, Halduron became a Ranger Captain. As a Ranger Captain, he participated in the desperate defense of Boltalas and was among the few notable survivors of the slaughter. As the Ranger General SYLVANAS fell and Lor'themar Theron took on the role of the ruler of the Blood Elves, Halduron became the new Ranger General. Since that point, he was a part of most events events that occurred, as he was essentially one of the leaders of the Blood Elves as well. In Legion, he represented the Forest Riders of the Unseen Path, which is the Union of Hunters, and most recently, he participated in the Fourth War. Despite being a political figure, he is a master of both ranged and melee combat, and we have seen him wield literally every weapon imaginable, from spears to bows and daggers and everything else. Theron is also extremely skilled in deception, traps, tactics, and is one of the most skilled military personnel of not just the Blood Elves, but of the entire Horde. General Brightwing has been a part of the Warcraft lore for almost 2 decades now, but despite not having much of a spotlight and not really being that popular, he is one of the most powerful rangers and hunters out there. Number 7. HULN Highmountain. The Eagle Spear and the most influential Tauren ever, and one of the most notable hunters of all time, HULN Highmountain reached his glory during the War of the Ancients as he united the warring Tauren clans under his new-formed Highmountain tribe. Then he faced off the biggest demonic invasion ever, hand to hand. He fought alongside Geralt Shadowsong, the Wild God Omen. He protected Malfurion during a critical moment and helped defeat the Dreadlord Tychondrius. His biggest moment was during a battle in Ashara, as well as in the final battle of the war at the Well of Eternity, where he fought a Doomlord that had sworn to eradicate the Tauren race. For his achievements, HULN was granted the Blessing of Cenarius, and his homeland was renamed Highmountain in his honor. As he returned home, he faced off and banished Deathwing, and as he died, his spirit traveled to Ardenwell. There is absolutely no doubt that HULN is considered the greatest Tauren of all time, and the Highmountain today are descended directly from him. Despite his mythical status as a political figure, he was also incredibly powerful as a hunter, wielding Talon-Claw, the Eagle Spear, and facing off against enemies that few mortals would even dare to stand against. Most notably, he managed to stab the Doomlord in the eye, forever taking his sight, as well as protecting the Tauren race. Now, in Shadowlands, we will most likely see him in Ardenwell, as he is a member of the Wild Hunt, a group of the finest hunters in the entire universe that serve the Winter Queen only in times of dire need to defend the forests of the afterlife. Number 6. Lor'themar Theron, the Ranger Lord and the leader of the Blood Elves. Early on, as a member of the Forest Riders and a lieutenant, he clashed often with Yamani, eventually getting caught and was tortured by Zul'jin himself. Throughout the years, he rose in ranks, and during the Second War was a captain, and subsequently was the second in command to SYLVANAS, the Ranger General. In the absence of Keltas, he was a temporary leader of the Blood Elves, but ultimately became the actual ruler, as Keltas had betrayed his people and was thus killed. Since then, he has been around in essentially everything that happened, most notably rebelling against Garrosh, helped us defeat the Legion, fought the Alliance, fought Ashara and N'Zoth, and rebelled against Sylvanas, Windrunner. Now, as we venture into the Shadowlands, he's directing us towards our very first missions against the invasion of the Scourge. The thing about Lor'themar, despite being the actual leader and now a member of the Horde Council, he also personally has a ton of battle experience, and I do mean a ton. This guy battled everyone from trolls to orcs to undead to demons and literally everything in between. He is one of the most powerful rangers of all time, and despite being highly skilled, he is often described as more of a spellbreaker than a hunter, often preferring melee combat as he is very proficient with a sword. Now, most of Lor'themar's power definitely comes from his political role, as he is one of the most influential figures of the Horde, but make no mistake, Lor'themar is one dangerous and skilled individual. Number 5. Shandris Feathermoon. Shandris Feathermoon is a legendary hunter and possibly the most accomplished one on all of Azeroth, as she is thousands of years old. Her humble beginnings date back to the War of the Ancients, when she lost her family and participated in the conflict as a young Night Elf. Her presence was most notable during the final battle, as she, together with the Night Elven Resistance, faced off the army of Archimonde and dropped dozens of demons with her arrows. Then, as Legion was defeated and the Sentinels were formed some 600 years later, she became a captain of the army. During the War of the Satyrs, she played a key role and also fought against the Vorgen, the first ever Vorgen, most notably Alpha Prime. During this time, Shandris was adopted by Tyrande and served as her right hand for thousands of years. Shandris would rise to prominence once again during the Third War, where she was in almost all battles, most notably the final stand against Archimonde, as he was trapped by the World Tree. Subsequently, she now became the general of the Sentinels and literally participated in almost everything that involved the Night Elves ever since. She faced off Garrosh's invasion, defended Terramore, ventured to alternate Draenor. Additionally, Shandris represented the Sentinels in the Unseen Path, the union of all hunters of Azeroth, fought against the Legion, and most recently participated in the latest Horde and Alliance conflict. Most notably, Shandris' role was key in the battle for Darkshore as she aided Tyrande in becoming the Night Warrior. Then, she was present during the Sylvanas and Verok Magara and will now play a role in the Shadowlands. So, if you haven't figured it out by now, Shandris Feathermoon is one of the most seasoned veterans with thousands of years of experience, like 10,000 years. She is powerful, not just as a general, but directly in combat, facing off against demons, undead, satyr, Vorgen, and everything in between. Number 4. Nathanos Blightcaller. Nathanos Morris was one of the most unique humans in all of history. He was the first and the only human ranger trained directly by the High Elves, more specifically Sylvanas Windrunner. Many elves opposed the fact that Sylvanas included him, but nonetheless his accomplishments were unprecedented. Nathanos was a tactical genius and was responsible for Alliance victories spanning a decade of conflict. Due to feeling unwelcome with the elves, he spent most of his time in Lor'themar, and as the Undead Scourge crisis occurred, he was among the first of all overpowered by an abomination. For a while, Nathanos was just a mindless ghoul, all until Sylvanas broke free from the Lich King and searched for him specifically. As she freed him, she turned him into her champion and her right hand. From that point forward, Nathanos became instrumental in all of her plans. Initially, Varian and Bolvar themselves put a price on his head, and by the time of Cataclysm, he was essentially the second in command with the Forsaken. Blightcaller trained a new generation of Forsaken Rangers and played a critical role in all of Sylvanas' campaigns. Also, as he was so close to her, he was no doubt one of the selected few that knew about her deal with the Jailer. Nathanos was and still is insanely loyal to the Banshee Queen, and his role was key from Cataclysm up to the Battle for Azeroth, and will no doubt be in the Shadowlands as well. We've seen him fight on many occasions, from Darkshore and the Burning of Teldrassil to Zandalar and Kul Tiras. Most recently, as Sylvanas ventured into the Maw, Nathanos was essentially baiting us at his old home, which led the Argent Crusade Horde in the Alliance to launch a direct attack on him. He was easily dealing with all of us until Tyrande ambushed him, and with the power of the Night Warrior that we had yet to learn about more, Nathanos was quite easily dealt with and was ultimately killed. However, all of this really seemed like this was his plan all along, as he said that she allowed him to get back with Sylvanas. As a hunter, Nathanos was incredibly powerful, as well as a Dark Ranger. We did see him deal with some magic, but throughout all of our encounters with him, he was mainly just a ranger with a bow, a very skilled one and a very powerful one as well. Most recently, he was no doubt empowered by the Jailer, which is why he was capable of dealing with us so easily. But even before, Nathanos Blightcaller was one of the strongest hunters around. Number 3. Rexxar. One of the most unique characters in the entire franchise, Rexxar is one of the few remaining members of the Mok'Natal clan, a half-ogre, half-orc, and most importantly, a beastmaster. A type of a hunter with a strong affinity for the wilderness and the wild animals. He joined the Horde almost at the start, but was disappointed quite early on. He ventured through the portal during the First War, participated in the Second, and briefly returned to Draenor. For a while, Rexxar was stationed with Grom on Azeroth, and he had already grown tired of the constant orcish brutality and the crimes they were committing. But as an orcish warlock drained the life of his wolf companion, he slew him and shortly after abandoned the Horde and departed directly for the wilderness. After a while, Rexxar found Troll's Horde, and completely randomly he became his #1 champion, and one of the main reasons the Horde was able to establish itself in Durotar. After that, he once again returned to the wilds and he played minor roles throughout the expansions, most notably returning Legion as he joined the Hunter organization. After that, during Battle for Azeroth, Rexxar had more of a hands-on approach. He helped us during many missions fighting against the Alliance, as well as ultimately rebelling against Sylvanas. Now, we don't know what the future holds for him, but the Unseen Path considered him one of the greatest hunters of all time, and he definitely is. First off, Rexxar is gigantic as a half-ogre. He can wield many weapons, he can coordinate with a wide range of animals effectively, and we have seen many of his personal achievements, one of them defeating an ogre warlord in a duel, as well as fighting against Kul Tirans. Despite being a beastmaster, Rexxar is one of the purest hunters on this list, and also one of the most powerful. Number 2. Alleria Windrunner. Alleria is the oldest of the Windrunner sisters, and despite her mother's wishes for her to become a ranger general of the army, she instead joined the Fast Riders and became a ranger captain. Alleria amassed a ton of experience fighting trolls and ultimately joined the Orcish wars. Despite not being ordered to, Alleria led her rangers to join the Alliance of Lor'themar, helping turn the tide of the war. Due to losing her mother and brother in the conflict, she was driven by revenge, and therefore, together with Tyrellian in the expedition, she ventured beyond the Dark Portal. Then, after the planet was destroyed and completely shattered, she was thought to have been lost forever. That was the official story until Legion, when we reunited with her and realized that in the meantime she had joined the Army of the Light aboard the Xenadar. Despite missing for only a decade or two, the time that actually passed was more along the lines of like 500 years. During some of her missions, Alleria began to learn more about the Void and that it wasn't as evil as the Light had previously presented it. For this, she was imprisoned by the Naru Xera. Ultimately, Alleria helped us defeat the Burning Legion, but as she absorbed the power of the Dark Naru, she became the first ever Void Elf, creating a brand new race essentially by herself. She helped us in the battle for Azeroth, the downfall of N'Zoth, and really became a whole new race and a class for herself. I'd hardly consider her a hunter anymore, far from it really. With some of her powers, she'd be more like a mix between a Shadow Priest, a Warlock, and a Ranger, but the entire Void thing was quite recent. Prior to that, Alleria was in fact a Ranger, and was an incredibly powerful one at that, fighting Trolls, Orcs, Legion, and everything in between with her skills and a bow. And lastly, number 1, SYLVANAS, Windrunner. SYLVANAS is as far from a hunter as you can possibly be at this point, but long ago, she was possibly the most powerful one out there. Member of the prominent Windrunner family, she was the middle sister and joined the Rangers quite early, eventually becoming their leader. As a Ranger General of Silvermoon, she was practically the military leader of the entire High Elven army. She amassed a ton of experience fighting against the Amani trolls, which were a constant threat to the elves, as well as fighting the Orcish horde during one of the most crucial battles of the Second War. SYLVANAS' most prominent role was in the Scourge invasion, when she literally gave it her all, cutting down numbers of undead and fighting until the very end. Ultimately, however, she was killed, raised, and enslaved by Artis Menethil. Eventually, she managed to break free and to establish the Forsaken. Now, at this point, she was more of a Dark Ranger, but she could still loosely be considered a hunter. She had all of her old abilities, but now enhanced by dark magics and a banshee form. At this current point in the lore, I'd hardly say she's a hunter anymore, as she literally allied with the jailer and became one of his closest agents. But if we consider SYLVANAS as a Ranger General and early as a Dark Elf, she was one of the most prominent hunters in the history of Azeroth. We've seen her incredible skill with a bow, fighting Gen, and literally obliterating soldiers with her banshee form. Even with daggers, she overpowered one of the strongest warriors, Saurfang, meaning that she's also incredibly skilled in melee, and also obviously overpowering the Lich King, although a big part of that skill can definitely be attributed to the jailer and their pact. Thank you for watching. Check out the top 10 strongest characters in WoW updated for Shadowlands, and also check out the second channel, Doronsmovies Academy, for videos on real world history and science. See you next time.